Scarves and Spikes special edition. We had to do one, right? We knew
We had to.
we had to. We knew this week was going to be Fast and Furious, right? In theaters tonight.
He did
I had to
it.
do it. I'm trying to get sponsors. That's what we're trying to do.
Fast X.
But yeah, last night, big win by Atlanta United, 4-0. We're on the highest of highs, and then out of nowhere, this morning we see Araujo transfer rumors. Okay, we've seen those before. Doug Robertson comes in, confirms it. $10 million transfer, and he's gone. Club announced it around 4 o'clock today. It's official. There's no more rumors. Luis is gone. And I don't know how to feel about this. And I think the only reason why I don't know how I feel is because he seems like he's been getting better the past few weeks.
Yeah. And I'll read off Carlos's quote. By the way, he'll be here until June 24th. But yeah, he's gone essentially. Well, not essentially but he is gone. He is gone. Carlos Bocanegra is saying, ultimately, this is an opportunity that suits both parties well and gives us enough time to plan and evaluate as we'll be actively seeking reinforcements in the summer transfer window. We wish Luis the best of luck at Flamengo and in his future endeavors. Kind of want to focus on the first part of that quote. This was an opportunity that suits both parties well, which, kind of reading between the lines, guys, it seems like there is a little, not discontent, but Luis probably want to go home. I mean, he didn't feel that this was the best opportunity for him. I mean, you can see it in his play throughout the season, throughout his time with Atlanta United. And essentially, I feel like he came to the club and said, you know what, this is an opportunity for me to go back home. I want to take it. This is the best move for me at this current point in time. And the club obliged. So that's kind of me reading between the lines of what Carlos said.
It's kind of weird because over the past not even 24 hours, this has been one of the fastest transfer rumors to then the official news I think I've ever seen with Atlanta United. It's been quick, and I only say you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say Pity was faster though. I saw you tweet that. That one was it was at noon on on a Tuesday or whatever, and then all of a sudden you just see the tweet. He's gone. No rumors, nothing.
Yeah. And that one felt like a kind of a breath of fresh air. Which, looking back now, I think I actually would like to have Pity Martinez back at this club. But things change, right? I think we were anyway. That's a different topic. I won't go down that road. But no, it's crazy, right? Because last night we were at the game. Great game. Great performance by not only Luiz Araujo, but the whole team. The whole team looked solid. It was kind of getting to the point where I was starting to worry. You had the penalty or lack thereof, and then you had the banger, which he tends to take easier than penalties, apparently. Almada does. And then they went on that stretch of, well, they're knocking on the door, but they can't finish. And then the last 10 minutes, they have 3 goals. So performance by all of them. Araujo played really well. He was active for the whole match, the whole time he was in. And you're like, okay, cool. This is a couple matches in a row where he's had really, really, really good energy. He's been, just an absolute hound on both sides of the ball, and he's staying involved the whole time that he's on the pitch. Then you go to the locker room, and there's a disconnect, and he just is kind of offset and staying away from everybody. And we specifically asked to talk to him. And I remember one of the communications guys going over to him as he was putting the rest of his stuff on, and he kind of leaned over and whispered something to him, and saw him shake his head, and then they came back over and they said, he's not wanting to talk to the media tonight. And I was like, okay, I mean, that could go a bunch of different ways, but he's been getting a lot of criticism lately, rightfully so, but also completely within his right to be upset about it and not want to talk to the media. I get it, but it just seemed a little odd because he had such a great game last night.
Yeah.
And then this morning, the rumors start popping off coming from Brazil, and then quickly Doug jumps on it and verifies some stuff, and then it goes to everybody. Fabrizio Romano is on it, and then the club.
There we go, confirmed.
Yeah, it's all confirmed, and it's been so quick, and like I said, like you said, I think it's good for everybody involved.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Like I just I always feel like what could have been, and we're past that because he has the talent.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's what happens with a player of his caliber. Like they just don't fit in. They're talented, but they just don't fit in. And maybe the best thing for him and for his family is to get back home.
Yeah, and I hope he tears it up at Flamengo. I mean, Flamengo won a couple Libertadores last season. And this is a big club in Brazil, not just Brazil, but in South America, globally. I mean, this isn't just some small potatoes backwoods operation. I mean, Flamengo commands respect, commands a lot of the headlines down there in Brazil. And this is a great opportunity for Luiz to get down there and hopefully affect the team in the positive manner. Um, Flamengo, they're in the Copa Lib right now and looking to get to the knockout stages. 3 times won Copa Lib, Serie A champions. Now they're Brazil 7 times. Yeah, not. This isn't a small club. This is a big club, and I feel like in some respects it might be a little bigger than Atlanta United. It's certainly been around for ages, but yeah, it isn't just Luis looking to fade into the sunset and latch on with some team in Europe. I mean, he already came from Europe, but latch on to just another opportunity where you can make a bigger paycheck. This is home. Now, this is Brazil. This is a country where he's familiar with, he's known. I'm sure he grew up watching the big clubs on television, going to their matches, family is there. So I think a lot of that was weighing on him. And this is the thing we can't see, right? We can't see these things. We just, and yeah, we just as fans look at players and just assume a lot based on their performance, and we want to run the next guy out of town because he's not performing to our expectations. And look, I've been critical of Luis myself. Yeah, I'm going to raise my hand and say that personally, but you know, it's clear that there's some things going on where essentially he was homesick. I feel, and the United States is the United States, right? It's a big country. You have New York, L.A., all the big markets, Miami. Atlanta isn't quite as big a market as New York, L.A., but it's still a big market. And I feel like the move over here was intriguing for that reason. You get to restart your career in a large country, and if you can do well enough, you'll hopefully get yourself to a bigger club. I think that was really the draw for Luis. Never turned out that way. Came in pretty good. Had a pretty good run coming into MLS from Leo. But never quite, like you guys were saying, fit in for whatever reason. And I feel like, some of that wanting to go back home and wanting to get away from it all essentially kind of factored into him again commending this move from Atlanta United and going to them and saying, hey, I got to take this opportunity. This is right for me. And again, Atlanta United agreed, and here we are.
So, and this is just step one of a rebuild, right? Like the rebuild really started this winter. Garth Lagerwey comes in. You obviously see a change here. You move on from Joseph Martinez, which was really one of the last big pieces. I know Miles and Brad are here, but Joseph was the guy. He moves out, and then that there's other changes coming, right? We all know Amada's out of here sooner than later, most likely this summer, potentially in the winter. Araujo is another piece that came in right around when Pineda was getting hired, but that Pineda likely was not involved in that DP signing. They both kind of came in around the exact same time. This gives you an opportunity, and I know can't forget that Boca's still in charge of this team, but he has a mentor now, the best general manager in MLS history. And now you have a guy that comes in, and now he has an opportunity to put really a stamp on this team. You are going to be able to really bring in all three DPs. Like really, you brought in Yakimakis, and you're going to have 2 spots open within the next year.
Yeah.
So that is huge. You're potentially I mean, we could say that maybe Miles Robinson could be one of those guys, but that's probably unlikely.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you're going to be moving on from a potential Miles Robinson, a Brad Guzan. You are going to be changing this roster over in the next 6 months. That we're not going to recognize this team like it, and I think that's what fans have wanted. They've wanted change for a while now. This hasn't been the Atlanta United, and yes, this team has, I think, overachieved this season, and I don't know if we're all going to agree on that, but I think that they've overachieved so far from what they
To
probably
an
what they
extent.
should have been. Yeah, like they've had some games where maybe they shouldn't have won. But again, this is like you're rebuilding here, and I think that this is all for the best. Like you said, like it's good for Araujo, and it's still to me when I watch that goal and you watch how he pointed to somebody in the crowd, and I don't know who he was pointing to, but like he looked at
His
the I
agent.
think probably, but like it was on the side of the supporter section, I think, where he scored, right? Or was it the
Yeah,
opposite
he
side?
pointed into the corner like where Molly Bees is at. Maybe he just wanted some food or something. I don't know.
But he
It's
didn't look
hungry.
happy. Like
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, he scored goals before, and he looked like, "Yay, I scored a goal! I'm smiling." That was like a stare down, and it felt weird. And then you tell me later when you hop on Spaces, he doesn't do the interview, and then today, it's not a coincidence.
No. And it is going to be interesting because we've seen so many MLS teams, mostly Seattle over the years, but many MLS teams start off sketchy, make the right moves in the summer, and really come back strong in the end of the season. And the schedule this year throws things around a little bit because of Leagues Cup and everything else, but you're going to have plenty of time in the second half of the season to really make a run, and it's not hard to get into the playoffs. So then it's just a matter of what do you do in the playoffs. And you can only hope for something like 2021 Braves and the changes they made that allowed them to make the run in the World Series. Like that kind of trade window though is potentially what you can have happen here. I'm not trying to compare it and say for sure that's what's going to happen, but all the pieces are in the right place, right? Because now you're losing Araujo. So now for sure you have a DP spot available. This is not a hypothetical if Almada leaves. If Almada leaves, they already got somebody lined up, whoever that may be. Garth Lagerwey has a list a mile long. I know he does. But best case scenario, you keep him. You bring in somebody to replace Araujo, and in my head, I'm thinking a very experienced, solid number 8 or like central midfielder, somebody that's going to be right down the middle of the team and be able to command the team from the central area. I don't think this is going to be a like for like. I don't think it's going to be a right winger that you get as a DP again. Of course, there's always a chance that they hold on to that spot. They move Etienne to the right. Wiley gets back. They stick him on the left. I don't think that's going to happen, but the possibility's there. But
Yeah.
he's already said he's making 3 moves, right? Well, now you have 100% the room to make a DP move, and there's the summer window is when you want to do that, right? Because that's when all the other leagues in the world are out of season. That's their main window. So this is when you're really going to be wanting to find talent and use that analytics department that he's built and that he's been trying to add on since he got here to really pan out and get their money's worth. So I know they already have some targets in mind. I don't know who they are, but I'm really curious to see kind of what smoke starts popping off in the next couple of weeks in terms of transfer targets, because you have the potential here to go from a team, like you said, Tommy, that's maybe overperforming or just skimming. And, we can look at the standing in the table, and that's great. And it's great that they're scoring as many goals as they are. But that's still a very tight table. Like 1 loss, 2 losses more than what they've already had could drop them down near the bottom. But you get an opportunity here to bring in the right guy or right set of guys in the summer window, one of which could be a DP, and completely transform the face of the season and really the team for the next couple of years.
I don't think that whoever they bring in as a DP is going to make nearly as much as Luis did because he
No,
was on
unless it's
like
Messi.
unless it's messy. Yeah, but but I think that the club, and we talked about this on Tuesday. I think you and I, Tyler, about the club, just needing to be more fiscally responsible with the talent, with the cash that it pays for players. Um, you know, you can spend a lot of money, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get the results that you expect. And Luis getting just paid a ton of money to, really not perform to the abilities that Atlanta United were expecting and the fans were expecting. So that's what I've always looked at with him. Now you have the opportunity maybe to bring in a DP, and maybe two TAM level players, and really have more flexibility with the salary cap than you do now, because now you have over $4 million off the books. You're not as strangled with financially as you were with the salary cap. And what's Lagerway talked about a number of times, the salary cap, free up salary, and yeah, this frees up a lot of salary. This is $4.5 million that LA United can play around with. So maybe you bring in a DP and a TAM level player to really get yourself in a position. I don't know if it'll be three players. I think, yeah, it will be maybe a DP and someone on TAM to reinforce the club. I would say maybe it will be a number 8, at least. And then for the second spot, maybe you do bring in a winger, maybe not a DP winger, but a TAM level winger to make things happen on that side that really weren't happening a whole lot with Luiz. Maybe someone too with a nose for goal, more of a nose for goal. So you have a lot of opportunities. You have a lot of flexibility here. And, this was already going to be an interesting transfer window for Atlanta United. And I was looking forward to seeing what would happen with Atlanta as they move forward in the season. And through this transfer window, now things get even more interesting because, as Tyler, you were saying, you now are guaranteed to have at least one DP slot. So, yeah, I would say probably a midfielder. You need that big time, and then maybe go TAM or something like that on a winger.
Yeah. I'll also point out, too, Atlanta's not losing a lot of money if you're just talking about Luis. Like, I think this is actually the best case scenario that you could have gotten in terms of a business transaction for what you got Luis for and now what you're letting him go for. So Flamingo is like the best team to come calling because, like you said earlier, Sydney, they're a big club. They've won it all multiple times. They are not a joke of a club. They are not some backwater club. They are a super club in Brazil and South America. And so maybe they're okay throwing a little bit of extra change around. But I think, have we all been polled on this like a month ago and said, will Luiz Araujo, will his transfer essentially return what Atlanta bought him for, transferred him for? We all would have said no, probably not even close. And here we are now, and it's very close.
It's Pity Martinez all over again. Like
Yeah.
a guy that's underperforming. It's just the Atlanta United name, right? Like you get it tied to Atlanta United, and people are like, yeah, I'll pay you. I'll give you what you want for the guy. And that's just how it feels sometimes. And yeah, I mean, potentially, I mean, I know there's multiple numbers out there, but I mean, it was between 9 and 11 million that they brought him in for, and you sold him for 10 around. Like,
Yep.
hey, either way, like you take that. And I think
reporting 10. I've seen numbers, 11, 9, but I think what his article said was 10. So
yeah, at worst, he saw for a small loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's fine. That's more than fine because I know a lot of people have been specifically worried about that situation, right? Like, hey, why we don't want to lose money on these deals, and like it's not huge for the Arthur Blank group to lose some money on players, but you didn't. Now you've gained potentially maybe made a little bit of money out of it. That's more than fine from here. So, and you're getting the flexibility to rebuild this team in a Garth Lagerwey vision, which I think is the most important thing. I think we've always talked about it. The spot was more important than the money. Just opening up that spot here. And if the guy wants to go home and play, great, good for him. And now we get to figure out what we want to do with the offense. And I think that they're going to get creative. We've never had a summer window, I think, like this before, where you've just had this hope that like you're bringing people in, because usually you're tied up. You're bringing in these big splashes in the winter to start the season. No, that's not the case. Like we have potential money to spend here, and I don't think he's the only one out either. Like I still think there's other players that are going to be on their way out sooner than later. I still think that potentially a Sosa or one of the players in the midfield could be on their way out as well. And we'll talk about it later as it goes. But like if Almada moves, you've got a decision to make on how to replace him, because with the age that he's brought in at, you have to bring in another DP at that age, or if not, you could sign an older DP, which I think the club might actually want to do. Bring in more experienced players and build around the U20, the one U22, because if you bring in two older DPs, you're going to have to move potentially three of the U22s, because we have four of them technically, to move that out. But that might get tricky to have to do that in the summer. So I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but just more excitement. Like I think this is just what you want. I think that this team's doing okay, but we talk about it every week what its deficiencies are, and now you got a real potential here to be able to move on from that.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to see everything that has been advertised about Garth Lagerwey in terms of what he can do as a president and CEO. This is, to me, really the first opportunity we're going to see truly Garth Lagerwey and Carlos Bocanegra working together. I mean, you could argue that Giakoumakis was that. Credit to Bocanegra, because it was even said by Giakoumakis himself that Bocanegra took the trip out there specifically to talk to him, introduce himself, tell him about the club, and that was part of the reason that made Giakoumakis want to come here, because he liked the personality and kind of the intimacy that Atlanta showed to him during that whole process. And who knows? I don't know if that's a Bocanegra thing. I don't know if it was something that Lagerwey told him to do, if that's just kind of his mindset. I don't think it is. I actually genuinely think that's a Bocanegra thing, but it'll be curious to see kind of how they both attack this. And you've got money to play with, and you really are setting yourself up for the next year, 2 years, at least the beginning of it. I mean, of course, you've got other transfer windows coming up, but this one is big because, like we said before, this is the summer window. This is when all your European talent in some other countries, this is where a lot of that's going to come from. So, they looked to Scotland for this one. That's not, I mean, of course, we have the partnership with Aberdeen, but you pulled a Greek striker who has been all over Europe here. Where else do they look now? I mean, I'm sure they're still going to be looking in South America. That's not going to change. But I'm really curious to see what kind of players they pick out of other countries to really try to make sure they get the right guy.
Yeah.
Nonstop excitement.
Exactly. Nonstop excitement. And let's hope they hit on this. Like Giakoumakis looks like they hit on. And let's hope they hit on this one as well. So exciting times. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
We were gonna do a rating show tonight. We were gonna rate. He was gonna get his highest rating, probably from us all season. I was gonna give him an 8. What were you guys gonna give him?
Yeah, I was gonna give him around that same one, 9.2.
9.2. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, you know why? Because I saw, and again, I know we like Taylor Twellman was on the other night with us, right? And he was like, "You don't pay him that much money to do defensive work," which is absolutely true. Yeah. However, that guy was so involved on both sides of the ball last night. It was extremely, extremely impressive. And, he gets the goal. He took multiple shots. The goal that finally goes in is one where he kind of slowed things down and finessed it in. And it was just a good goal. It was a pretty goal. It was a well-worked goal. It was his individual effort. Yeah. And I'm just happy for him, man. And I think, this might be his swan song. I mean, of course, I would love for him to go for the next 6 matches and score in every one of them so that he can go out on a really high note. But I just thought that was one of his best matches last night overall. I mean, he didn't come in and score bangers, but he scored a goal, and he was all over the place, which is exactly what you wanted out of your DP this whole time.
Yep. 8.9 on Fatma, by the way.
Yep.
Consistency was really just, I think, the problem that we all had with him. And, we kept saying, all he's got to do is get on a roll. He's got to get on a roll. He's been on, maybe not scoring goals, but he has definitely put in a good 2.5 performances over the past few weeks. So if he can continue to do that before he's on his way out, we appreciate it, Luiz.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's funny going back to last night because, I imagine Pineda knew this when we were asking questions last night. And his quote, one of his quotes was essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, I need Luiz Araujo to do that for 60 minutes or 80 minutes, not for 30 minutes and bring that intensity. And looking back at it now, it's like too little too late, unfortunately. But hey, if you get it out of him for the next 6 matches, then by all means, please do it. So,
indeed.
Well, the rumor mill is going to be going crazy. There was another. I think there was another tweet that came out today saying that I think Atlanta United with Almada deals will start coming in at 40 million. Did you see that? That
makes sense.
Yeah, you're gonna make some money
to cook with.
Yeah, and that was again, you go back, that was a Boca move. He brought Almada in. Him and his team did the legwork to bring him in. So that'll be something that we'll have to thank him for. But we got to continue a big week. There's never a day off, it seems, over the past couple of weeks. We got Chicago on Saturday at 8:30. Scarves and Spikes Patreon. We are going to be doing a watch along. We'll be giving away something. We haven't figured it out yet, but we will get there. Come hang out with us. We'll be having some drinks, having some conversations, hopefully seeing another Araujo goal or another Giakoumakis amazing feat there. Still, I think that's goal of the week. That's goal of the week for me.
Me too. That's what I voted for. I didn't vote for Almada on this one. As much as I like Almada's goal.
Yeah.
But we've seen it a couple of times already. But that Giakoumakis goal, nothing like that in the history of Atlanta United so far.
Yeah, so come hang out. It'll be a good time. And then we'll be back on Spaces after that and a ratings episode. And we get a midweek off, guys. As long as there's no transfers, we'll get a midweek off.
Time for my voice to recover.
We deserve it. Tyler's almost on the injury list. We got
Barry Manilow's gonna go away.
It's going, man. It's going. I got it. I need at least a midweek game to just let myself heal up.
Well, you've got it now.
Rest up.
Well,
cool.
Everybody, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. And we'll probably be having more emergency episodes coming up now.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Have a good one, guys. Barry Manilow.
Fast and Furious X in theaters.
Fast 10. Fast X.
Family.
Never turn your back on family.
Never.